Okay, so what I'm about to say is going to sound somewhat controversial, and for some it might be upsetting, and for that I apologise. But it is that sort of brutally honest, I will tell you as I see it attitude that I really hope that you'll subscribe to my channel for, because I think this government is gaslighting you. Anyone would think that there's an election coming up, local elections coming up, and they are desperately frantic to get you to vote one way or another. And such as it is, very often I think that these politicians make certain promises at certain times of the year because they hope to gain your vote, they hope to gain your trust, and they throw out headlines which are designed to make you convinced that they are the best group of people for the job. And so here it is, but I'm calling it out, and I think it's the right thing to say, but I think they're saying it for the wrong reasons, and there's a reason that there's no need to be too excited about what they say. Here we are. Now that I've done a long enough intro, I can talk about things that are outside of the first few seconds of YouTube. You understand how YouTube works. So these kind of offenders are now to be denied asylum rights in the UK under new law. So people that are coming here illegally and claiming asylum here are to be denied the right to stay in the UK if, and let's read this carefully, if they have been convicted of one of these kind of offences. And any offender sentenced to more than a year in prison, so not only do they have to be convicted of one of these offences, more about that in a second, but they have to be sentenced to more than a year in prison, and along with the terrorists and other war criminals and all that sort of stuff, they are to be denied the right to stay in the UK. So why do I say that's controversial? Why do I say this is the government trying to, some people might say, well, surely that's a good thing. Well, absolutely, that's a good thing. I don't think that we should have these kind of offenders in the UK if they have no right to be here in the first place. That is just a personal view alert, with the usual caveat that some people coming here deserve the help, etc. But I do think that they give up that right to help if they've committed one of these offences while they're here. But there's two reasons that I think the government's gaslighting you over all this. Now, there's two reasons I think that this is a little bit blown out of proportion and won't really make all that much difference. The two reasons are thus. Firstly, we have absolutely no idea whether or not any of these would-be offenders or historic offenders have a history of offending. We have no idea whatsoever because most of them are, I believe, undocumented. At least that's the terminology that is used in the official documents. This is not me, before some people say that I'm screaming hate here. It's not me saying this. This is the official terminology. They are referred to as the undocumented population. And the undocumented population is described as someone who is no right to be in the UK. The definitions used here, an undocumented individual, sometimes described as an irregular migrant or an illegal migrant. There's no official definition of who is undocumented, and the term is contested, but for the purposes of this research, an undocumented individual will include those in this research and those that have entered the UK illegally, whether avoiding border controls or presenting false papers, those who've overstayed or overstayed the permitted duration of their stay. But nonetheless, that's who's referred to as an undocumented person. So they are undocumented in the sense that we have no idea who they are, where they're from, what they've done, what their criminal background is. They may be serial offenders. They may have been prosecuted. They may be coming here to evade prosecution. This is all speculation, you understand, and it's not designed to give rise to hate. This is an intelligent legal discussion on the matter. People may be coming here to flee prosecution. In fact, some of the claims to stay here have been because that they'll be persecuted if they return because of offences that they've committed here, and therefore they'll be treated badly when they return. Therefore, they are claiming the right to remain here because they say they'll be treated badly. So all of these reasons give rise to a large number of people that we have absolutely no idea of their criminal history or otherwise. Now, somebody raised an interesting question as to the size of our army compared to the number of people here. Well, on cursory research, you understand the size of the British Army is something in the region of 108,000 personnel, made up of something in the region of 74,000 regular full-time Gurkhas, volunteer, reserve personnel, etc., of whom so many thousand are overseas and the rest stationed in the UK. So 108,000, give or take, according to cursory research. But then somebody wanted to compare that to the number of unauthorised migrants in the UK. Now, best estimates, either based on the Pew Research Centre or the Greater London Authority, both of which I've downloaded, in fact, one of which is linked here and you can go and read it yourself, both of which place the estimates in the something in the region of 800,000 to 1.2 million, or if you take the Greater London's estimate of 674,000 up to something around 800,000. So they bring it down a little bit. So taking the lower and the higher, anything between almost 700,000 and as many as 1.2 million unauthorized migrants in the UK. So why is this okay to be on the table to be discussed right now, you might ask? Well, it's because it's being reported that this is one thing that they are now saying, which I think is correct, but not to be overly excited about for reasons I'll come back to in just a moment. The second reason, the first is we don't know their background. The second I'll come back to, but it's on the table because they are now saying that these kind of offenders will be denied asylum rights in the UK. But the second reason not to be overly excited about that, and it will upset a lot of people, for that I apologize, but is the staggeringly low percentage rates of prosecutions and not even just the successful prosecutions, but those reports that end up in a charge or a summons in the first place. A charge being they've charged with the offence, or a summons they are called to attend court, effectively for, typically lower charges. They're summoned to appear in the magistrate's court and so on. But there are a couple of key findings. These are official statistics. I'm not making them up. They are official statistics here. Both the S kind of offences and the R kind of offences have seen a slight increase recently. But reading from this third bullet point down with the highlights here, the percentage of the reports of offences with a charge or a summons are, for the S kind of offences and the R kind of offences, 4.2% of all those reported, and 2.6% for the R kind of offence that have been reported. What makes this even worse is that I read somewhere else, just doing a bit of research for this, that fewer than 1 in 6 of those cases are actually reported to the police in the first place. So fewer than 1 in 6 reported to the police, of which, of the more serious kind, only 2.6% result in a charge or a summons. And then when looking at the percentage of those that result in conviction, this is taken with thanks to the endviolenceagainstwomen.org.uk website, the conviction rate for this group and type of offences is just 62%. When bearing in mind the TV licence fee prosecutions are well over 90%. So we are much better at prosecuting those because obviously they are far simpler. There's lots of complications here. There's a whole mixture of different reasons. There's a lack of evidence. There's possibly not enough support. There's not enough evidence in the first place to bring these to charge and summons in the first place. But then all the while leading through to horrifically low conviction rates on the whole of these offences that are originally reported to the police. So then when we bring that back to this headline, yes, it's the right decision. I think many people will find that these type of offenders are denied asylum rights under new proposed law. I believe it's proposed new law. And Yvette Cooper has also said that they need stronger rules to prevent judges from blocking the deportation of migrants on human rights grounds. And again, I say don't necessarily blame the judges. We've got ECHR to thank for the reasons that the judges are just applying the law and saying as it works. And if it does prevent them from being deported, then it prevents them from being deported. But Yvette Cooper says new rules should make it easier to block the deportation of migrants on human rights grounds, suggesting there'll be a new framework set by Parliament in the future, etc., but didn't provide any details. Conservatives said too little, too late. Now, again, this is why I say I think these headlines, whilst they might be saying the right things, it is really not necessarily the deciding factor in whether you vote for someone on that party or not. I suggest you do the full research. That is why I hope to just shed a light on this. I'm not giving you every shred of detail here. I caveat that there is a huge amount more to all of this than I could possibly cover in the 8 or so minutes that I try to keep my videos to. I implore you to do your own research. Don't just take the headlines. Take a look at all the statistics if you really take an interest in it. If you really want to vote and you really want the people in that are going to support your views and the way you would like them to govern things, do the reading, do the research. My videos hopefully just tip you in the right direction. So for that, please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.